2, and one more, and action.
Okay. One thing I wanted to ask you about was your family background.
Well, my father was a pianist, but he went to the University of Minnesota in chemical engineering. But he worked his way through college by playing in a jazz band. He actually said he met Jack Teagarden or something like that, came to the University of Minnesota. And he would write charts for pop songs for the band. So they'd have their charts. So he really knew music. He would play some classical music for me. And he said he knew how to play jazz, but he wouldn't play it for me. He didn't want me to learn jazz or anything. So he was real talented. You know, he started when he was really little. My mother didn't have lessons, but always wanted lessons. They were both born and grew up, they finished their college years during the Depression. So, you know, that limited her ability to go to school. And, but they were very into culture, into giving us all piano lessons. My brother took trombone lessons, piano. And I actually would watch him take his lessons on the grand piano, and I wanted to take on a grand piano. And they were big into education, of course, and training. My sister was a ballerina and went to Juilliard. And my younger sister also danced. And although she graduated in anthropology and worked at Emory. So, you know, I'd say they were very much into the arts, into ballet, dance, music, all that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were very encouraging and supported everything we wanted to pursue. Remember, my dad came to all my students' recitals, every one of them, and Marvin does. He comes to all their recitals at Spivey Hall or even here at the house. He's real supportive.
We talked about the most memorable good experiences you've had in your life. What are some of the most memorable bad experiences that you've had to endure?
I don't know if it was bad. At the time, I didn't worry about it. I had Bell's palsy when I was about 7, where half my face was paralyzed. My mother said she was worried that it would never get better, but it turned into a good experience. I had to go to the hospital on a bus every day by myself and get these treatments. So I kind of liked it because they'd let me have ice cream. So it would turn out that was kind of traumatic at first. There was a lot of pain involved at first. And I guess the most difficult things were being there for my father's death, my mother's death. She died at home. He died in a hospital, but I was there with her and my youngest sister. I feel like I was lucky because I was there to hold their hand. You know, that's really remarkable. My sister who died in New York, I got to talk to her the night before and tell her I loved her, and she was coming home the next day, but she never made it back. She had a brain hemorrhage. So I feel like I've been really lucky to talk to the people who left my life, or even to be there at their side. So yeah, so that was hard.
Was there anything that you learned from those two very tragic experiences?
Yeah, I feel like you have to tell the people that are meaningful to you in your life that you love them. And you're lucky if you can. And that life is short. You have to embrace it as you can and do as much, fill it, pack it in, pack everything you want to do in as long as you can. You know, sometimes when I'm hesitant about going on a trip because of my back, or something, Marvin says, well, we just have to travel what we can, because, you never know when you can't do it for a while. So I feel lucky that I've been able to pack it in and have a lot of experiences and work hard and see the results of that in my students and my children.
Well, you were sort of one of the classic feminists in that you were a single parent, owning businesses, and running businesses and raising your children all at the same time. When you were doing that, did you feel like this is something I can do, or did you feel overwhelmed, or how did you feel about it?
Well, I felt like I had to do it. and it wasn't so bad. I had support, and if I never felt like I had a safety net. You know, my father was there if I needed any help. I was actually able to pay him back the loans he gave me and to pay him interest. At one time when the business was doing well, he was like the secretary of my corporation, so I paid him a dividend one year. He was like shocked. But so I felt like I had a support group and a safety net with the family. But looking back on it, and all the time I was doing it, I wished I didn't have to work. I wished I could be with my home with my children and just be there all the time with them. I wonder if that would have made any difference, or I don't think they've ever expressed any desire, like, oh, Mom, you weren't there when I needed you or anything. They never said that. But it would have been nicer to be around them more than I was. Although that may have been worse, you know, too much mother. But I remember thinking at the time, the only other person I knew who combined, you know, working with, and was, you know, actually went to graduate school and was very accomplished was you, Bailey. I thought about you and your Guggenheim, I believe it was.
Fulbright.
And Fulbright. and going to Australia. I mean, I really admired you. And I didn't know many women like that at the time who even went to graduate school. They all wanted to get married, and so I felt like I had a role model. I had you.
Well, that's
Yeah,
an
they're
honor.
An honor.
Why did you study music in the first place?
Well, like I said, I'd taken piano lessons from the time I was 4. When I was about 12, I wasn't taking from the greatest teacher in the world. So I told my parents I needed a better teacher. And at that time, we moved from Pittsburgh to Atlanta. So I found a teacher here, and I told my parents I need a much better piano, because I had one of those Acrosonic, small pianos. So I need a grand piano, because when I play competitions, I play on those grand pianos, and they're hard to press the keys. So it took a couple years, but then they got me a grand piano. Or my uncle helped get the grand piano. Otherwise, I was practicing on the grand piano at the Temple on Peachtree. I'd have to go up there. Make my mother drive me up there. I'd practice. And it was an okay piano. It was all right.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question was again?
But you answered it. But,
okay.
but on the other hand, when it came to your studies, you ended up with a PhD
In English.
in
That's right.
English with a focus on Philip Roth.
Yeah.
How did that fit in?
Well, I like to read, and when I was at the Cincinnati Conservatory, I told my father, I think I want to major in English and music. He said, well, you don't need to be at Cincinnati Conservatory. I'm not paying all this money for you to go here. You'll go to Georgia State. So I did study piano with Tom Brumby, who's the head of the department, and I did a lot of auditions with him as far as him helping me win these competitions. And so I had a double major, and then after that, I guess because my first husband, Bert, got into NYU in English, I said, well, I'll go there too. And I had a master's in English at that time. For some reason, I didn't go on in music, I just went on in English. So that's how I ended up. I liked English all along, but I wasn't forced to go major in English till my father said, I'm not sending you back to Cincinnati. Yeah, so I did that. I was thinking about Philip Roth too the other day, and his philosophy. He wasn't I did interview him once, and he wasn't. I asked him if he was interested in music, because he never writes about it. He said no. He likes some music, but he wasn't that into it. He didn't give me much of an interview, because he said you can't write anything down that we talk about, and you can't record it. And I'd ask him a question, he'd go, yes, no, or nothing. Towards the end of the interview, he says, all right, you can ask me anything and you can write it down. That was like after an hour of me sitting there trying to drag something out of him. So I wrote about, my thesis was about his use of Buber's I and Thou, the philosophy in his books. When I asked him about it, he said, well, maybe I did, I thought about it in one book, that's all. He just was very difficult. So,
I need to reset real quick.
Okay.
okay.